Hi all, welcome back to my channel. I am so excited to have you here, and I'm really excited to dive into how I secured my mortgage and the tips that I have for you in this process. But first, I want to introduce you to PDF Element. It is a product that I use throughout my mortgage process. It is an alternative to Adobe Acrobat, the PDF reader, and it is something that has been so useful to me. They are a sponsor of this video, and I just really feel blessed to have tested this out because it really helped me out throughout the process. And so I'm going to open a document that I received from my lender. There's a way to turn the document, like a scanned document, into an editable document that you can add words and things like that. So there's a way to do that, and that's called the OCR. So I am going to process that. And here's one that's already processed, and you can literally edit in words. For example, like introduction. Hi team. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. But yeah, so there's ways to do that. I think it's super useful. Oftentimes our list or sales price would change, and we'd have to go back in and make quick edits, and so that would use this. And there's ways to add images, links. You can do a digital signature on here as well, which I ended up doing a ton of, so that was awesome. There's ways to mark the document up. You can crop the pages, add a header or footer, and it's just really useful. What I used most was editing a document, especially with the OCR feature. There are tons of tutorials on their website, and I also included some free links in the description box below. So definitely check it out because I think it would be really helpful for students, first-time home buyers. So I definitely think you should check it out, and I'm so grateful to them for sponsoring this video because I love a useful tool. But yeah, now let's get into my experience with the mortgage process. So if you haven't watched my other video, I would definitely go check it out. I go through the process of buying a home with my partner, Jake, and we really show you the timeline from when we started looking at houses to putting in an offer, and we're almost at closing, so we'll go over that once we actually close. But so I'll link that on one of these sides, I don't know, one of them. But I just thought I'd go over the actual mortgage process because when we started, there was a lot of mystery behind it. I had no idea what documents they would need from us. I didn't even know if I was qualified to buy a house, and I'm sure that you're worried about that too. So I thought I'd put a video out there because there's a lot of mystery around this, and I think it can be really detrimental, especially to young people who might have fears about buying a house. So overall, I guess I started my research online, like on Reddit and things like that, and the first thing that I kept seeing everywhere was to get a pre-approval letter from a lender before you begin to shop. You can go around to different neighborhoods and get really excited about a certain house, and then find out it's out of your budget. So we went to go get a pre-approval letter. I was actually really nervous about buying my house because I have a lot of student debt, but in Maryland they have a program called Smart Buy 2.0 where they will pay off your student loan, and then you will sign on to that loan, but it is forgivable over 5 years at 0% interest. So if you live in that home for 5 years, then it gets completely forgiven, and each year they forgive 20% of it. So we were so excited about that because we definitely plan to live in this home for 5 years, if not more, and it was just an easy way to have our loans, my student loans, gone, which has been my dream if you've been looking at my channel. So we were excited about that, and we actually found our mortgage broker through the maryland.gov website because it was one of the recommended people who do this kind of program or who have knowledge about this program. But what I would recommend for someone who isn't going through this program, which is a lot of you, is to look up mortgage brokers as they can shop around and find the best deal for you, find the best rate for you. And something that I would do is literally just Google something like mortgage broker near me reviews. Like I said, I didn't do this myself, but I definitely looked this up, looked at the reviews of my own mortgage broker, and it was good reviews. So that's my first tip. Definitely shop around for the best loan, the best lender who has good ratings, because that's really important. Because if you end up with a mortgage, like a mortgage broker or a lender that is super slow, they might delay that your closing or finance contingencies and things like that, and it can be really, it can make you lose a house basically. So that's how we found our loan officer. She's been awesome. And basically what I did was I just sent her an email letting her know which loan I was interested in, and that I was requesting a pre-approval. From that point on, she sent me a checklist of items. I will list them here or somewhere around here. So I'm going to leave them up here for a while because it's a pretty big list. I'm also going to like create these checklists on Excel. So subscribe if you're interested in those because I'll be posting them in future videos. But basically, for you and your co-borrower, will need to present your government issued ID or driver's license, the last 2 months of your checking account statements, homeowners insurance. We actually skipped this because I had no idea what homeowners insurance was, and I just was like, but proof of down payment and sources, so that can be like bank statements or like your savings or things like that. If you're a full-time employee or a part-time employee, whatever, you have to provide your last 30 days of pay stubs, your W-2s for the last 2 years, and your federal tax returns for the last 2 years. You can get your tax documents from irs.gov under most cases. I was able to. My partner Jake wasn't able to, but that might be because he's a foreign national. I don't know. If you're a retiree, your 1099 tax form, your Social Security award letter, your federal tax return letter, and your pension award letter is what's necessary. If you're self-employed, you'll need your federal tax returns for the past 2 years. And this is really important because this ended up disqualifying Jake from being able to be part of my loan. So I ended up getting approved all on my own because he has only been self-employed for the past year, and so they couldn't take his income into account when pre-approving us. So if you're self-employed looking to buy, make sure you've been self-employed for at least 2 years with like a steady income. I think that's really important. And then the last thing that they asked us was if you've had a major life event in the last 7 years, which is like marriage, divorce, foreclose on property or something like that, bankruptcy, like big deal things like that. So Jake and I were married, so we provided our marriage certificate. So those are all the documents you need for pre-approval, at least with my lender. You should start, like as soon as you start the process, you should, like especially if you're trying to move on a quick pace, you should try to just get those documents together. You're gonna definitely need them all during the actual like underwriting and once you're actually trying to secure the loan. So this is great to just create a Google Drive folder or a folder on your computer and just start collecting all these documents and keep them organized and titled accordingly, because that will really help out your lender and make your process a lot smoother. So after this, our credit score was analyzed through a hard pull, and they provided recommendations based on our credit score to get them up or down. So mine was above, so a 720, like quite far above it. So no changes need to be made to mine, but I think for that specific program or something, Jake's needed to be above 720. I think his was like 684, this was really helpful because they were able to provide recommendations to Jake on what he could do, and within like a week they were able to rescore, and he had like a 724 or something like that, and it's since gone up for both of us. So just know that in order to get pre-approved or to even secure an actual loan, you need to have good credit or you need to have decent credit. There are special programs for people who don't have great credit, and you should definitely check those out. It is definitely, like, you're going to be in a better position if your credit score is high. My credit score ended up being really strong, and so we were able to secure a very, very, very low interest rate, even for right now. I'll get into what my interest rate was later, so just keep watching if you want to know that. But at this point, Jake was eliminated from the loan process because he couldn't submit 2 years worth of self-employment history. So yeah, I mean, he just couldn't. He had full-time employment history from a while back, but due to his green card process, he hadn't been working for a while because he didn't have employment verification. So he was eliminated, and so I had to get pre-approved. So we had the option to get a co-signer, or for me to try to get pre-approved for a certain amount on my own. I decided to go with that because we don't want to like put other people on the line for things that we're responsible for. So we went with that, and I managed to get pre-approved for a pretty good amount of money at this time. So with this in mind, we could start looking at homes, and we were like, this is something we can afford and this is something we can't afford. And that really helped us to get a better idea of the kind of place that we would be buying, which was awesome. So now here are some mistakes I made in the process, because I definitely made a few. So basically the first mistake I made was that they asked you to do a few things they asked you not to do a few things during the process that may change your loan. So basically they asked you not to open any new lines of credit, not to use your credit, not to increase your debt to income ratio, not to get a new job. So basically I had been applying for jobs before I even applied for this loan, and I ended up getting a job. So I was pretty nervous about it, but it ended up working out for me because I had received a significant raise, and also just the timeline of my loan worked out. So basically I immediately told my lender, I was like, hey, I've got a new job, here's the offer letter, this is how much I'm going to be making. And thankfully we had time, because we were not quite yet putting in an offer, because I needed to get 2 pay stubs, and so that's a month, because I get paid bi-weekly. So it just worked out this way. But I know another YouTuber, if I remember which video it was, I will link it down below, but she stopped working during the middle of her loan because she's a teacher, was getting a stipend until a certain time in the summer, and because she had lost her job, they were gonna end her loan. So she immediately rushed out to get another job. She got a job, good for her, awesome. But because of the time when the pay stubs would come to her, it would be past her closing date. So they just didn't give her the loan, and that could basically happen. I honestly just got lucky with the timeline, but think hard before you take a new job or do anything like that, and talk to your lender before you do it, especially because it could ruin your chances. So when I got my new job, because it was a raise, I was pre-approved for much more, which widened our search for a house, and increased our budget. So basically, I ended up finding the home that I mentioned in my last video, or one of my last videos about finding my dream home. I will link that somewhere here or down below. I don't know yet, but look around for it. It's I think, really informative video and really helpful. So we found this home and we decided to put an offer on it. And so what happens at this point is that you let the lender know. We sent our earnest money to the title company. I think we gave them $4,000. And at this point, our lender was going to order an appraisal just to make sure the house was worth the loan amount. Now at this point, the house actually fell through, so we never got the appraisal on that house. But we have since put offers on other homes and have had appraisals done for those homes. So for this next home, the appraisal was done, and thankfully it matched the amount that we were offering and that the loan was for. Because if it had been lower, we would have had to put a lot more down in order to secure the same loan. For this house in particular, we put in an offer at list price, which was pretty close to the top of my loan pre-approval. So I was hitting it pretty high, and if it was just me paying for this house, it would be a little hard to do. But thankfully I have Jake, whose income wasn't accounted for, and we just both decided that this house was definitely affordable for us with both of our incomes, including his that's self-employed. So during this time, we had our home inspection, and we're in contact with our realtor about a lot of things now having to do with the loan, about getting some money from the seller for things we found on the home inspection. We negotiated a few things, and then the appraisal was done, and thankfully it came back at list, or the price that we wanted to pay. So after that, our loan had to go to underwriting, and at that point, a lot more documents were requested. This is where I used PDF Element a lot, which was super useful in the end, because there were so many. So some of the other things they asked me for, in addition to the previous things, was to provide landlord contact info for the last 3 years. They asked for Jake's too for some reason, I don't know. Provide the dates of residency, month and year, and with the amount of rent paid for those last years. Provide the most recent 2019, 2018, 2017 federal returns, confirm the household members of people who will be living there. I had to sign like a buyer's affidavit and a confirming affidavit. Jake had to provide returns for some reason, I don't know. Jacob also had to provide the residential history for the past 3 years as well. And then we had to confirm all assets have been disclosed outside of retirement, and we confirmed it. We had shown them our bank statements and things like that, and where the funds are going to be coming from. They also sent us a link to like log in on our bank account so they can see the actual amount of money that's in them, to like make sure that we actually have that money. My dad had to provide a canceled check of a gift that he had given us on his own. Just so thankful for that. It was a small gift, but it was like really a good chunk of money that really helped us out. We had wired some of Jake's money from England to the US, and we had to document that because it was under his dad's name, and so we had to have a gift letter from his dad to us. For gift letters, I would definitely ask your lender if they have like specific gift letters from their own company, because we had made our own gift letters and then we ended up having to re-sign them because they had their own like branded gift letters. So that's a good question to ask your lender. We had so another thing they tell you not to do is not to move your money around in different accounts. Before we knew this, we had started our joint account, and we decided to start putting our money from our separate accounts into that joint account, and that's the money that it would pull from for the loan. So we had made tons of deposits into this account, and before we found out that they hate that and that they need to document every single transaction and why it happened. So that we had to like basically explain all the deposits that were put into this account, which was really annoying. Our earnest money for this house, this most recent house, was $8,000, so we had to provide a picture of that check, so make sure to take pictures of all the checks that you use as well. And then I had to, like I said, my pay stubs, I didn't have 2 pay stubs to give them immediately, so of my new job, so I had to give them my next pay stub as soon as possible, because it was like 2 days away from the finance contingency ending, and thankfully I would get my second pay stub at that time, so I sent it as soon as I received it. And then since we were also at the time going to do the student loan forgiveness thing, I had to provide a payoff amount for all my student loans. So throughout this process, so they confirm everything, and so that's kind of what the process for like preparing to give all the documents to underwriting was like. It was kind of crazy. There was a lot of people on email chains, and it got really difficult at some points just because like a lot of lines crossed, wires crossed, not lines. And I have some tips for you because we actually face some difficulties. So I will start with the first one, which is to double check everything. We actually hit a snag on our loan that ended up causing us to have to change our loan type from that student loan one to an FHA loan. So basically what had happened was that I had consolidated my credit card debt from like school into payoff loan, which is called payoff, with a much lower interest rate and a much higher monthly payment. And that was done like in January or something like that. And then the pre-approval credit pull was done like in March or April. And I just assumed it was on there this whole time because I was like, oh, like, I don't know, like, don't credit agencies report things like this. But I never checked the document when my lender actually I never even asked for it, so I definitely should have. But just a few weeks ago, when we were like 2 days away from from our finance contingency expiring, I got an email from our lender saying, hey, there is suddenly $10,000 on this credit report that we just pulled that we didn't know about, and I don't think we can approve you for this loan anymore because your debt to income ratio, because of that really large $500 payment, is just like out of whack, or it's too high. And I had specifically chosen that really high payment. There had been options for lower ones before I thought I was buying a house, because I was trying to get rid of my debt as quickly as possible. And I still am, but that just like threw a wrench in everything. And so our options then were to pull $10,000 out of nowhere and pay that off. I was gonna have to get a gift for my dad, which or it would end up being a loan, low-key, but a gift from my dad, and paying it off, and I did not want to do that. So then she told us another option was to switch to FHA, where because of like the interest rate and a number of different things, it would be I would be able to be approved with a few contingencies. So we talked to her about that. We had her actually like drop the numbers and like give us an estimate to see if like this would actually allow us to close on our house. And she ended up, with my good credit score, she ended up being able to get me a 2.5 interest rate. So if you're trying to buy a house in this climate, like, we know interest rates are low, but not that low. And our other interest rate was 4%, and that was because of the loan. So it was a little higher because of that. We had, I think we had been offered a 3.5 FHA, or 3 or something like that, 3.25 FHA rate a while back, but for a number of reasons she offered me a 2.5% loan. I think both because of my credit score, and also like because she felt bad for a few things that had happened before. So basically, step number 2, don't be afraid to badger your loan officers. So basically, typically, like at least in our case, we when the seller accepted our offer, we set finance contingency for a few weeks ahead. We plan to close about a month later. So I think we should have closed July 7th. And so there's a certain amount of time that you have to get them the documents. You have a certain amount of time for the lender to approve everything. And so basically, so the lender, not like my favorite, she's like awesome, but one of her coworkers, so there's 3 lenders, 3 people working on our loan, and 2 of them are great, super communicative, super helpful, and then there was a third who I don't even know what to say. But basically what happened was that she, so once underwriting was like starting to happen, she sent us an email and she was like, hey, I need all of these documents, and we can get started on, you know, underwriting, and we need them soon because you don't have a lot of time. I sent back everything. She sent that email like 9 p.m. or something. I sent all that stuff back by 11 a.m. the next morning. Like everything signed, dotted lines, nothing wrong. And because I knew we were on a tight schedule and I don't like to be late. So basically I sent that all to her, and then she didn't hear anything back. And then I think the Sunday or Saturday or something like that, and I sent her an email, and like along with her coworker, and then I was like, hey, is there any updates? Like, do you need anything else from us? We are available at all times if you need to call us and get any verifications or anything like that. No response. Monday, like in the evening, she emails and she's like, hey, so you need to send your documents to us because we haven't, like, you don't have a lot of time, and like we need to get your loan approved. I almost lost my shit, you guys. Like, seriously, I almost lost it because I had sent it to her like a long time ago. And now we were like 2 days away from our finance contingency expiring, and we could have lost this house. So basically I was like, hey, Katie, at 11 a.m. on Thursday, I sent you this email with this information. I guess you haven't gotten it, but please, like, take a look now. We sent everything to you literally like 4 freaking days ago. I didn't say it like that. I said it a little bit more polite. And then she sent an email saying that the links didn't work. I don't know. The links did work, and then her coworkers confirmed. Like, obviously I was mad. And so her coworker, one of the people I liked, was like, hey, Katie, they work. I downloaded them and I'm sending them over to you. So that was outrageous. And I was just hoping that they were rushing it at this point. This woman had told us she was going to call us to confirm some info or like just give us an update a few times. She never called us. We literally had to like like very kindly suggest we get a call in like that group email with her colleagues in it so that they would push her to call us. But basically we didn't end up hitting that finance contingency in time. Thankfully the seller was super understanding and nice, and we were able to extend our finance contingency to the following week. And basically, yeah, I mean, like, just like badger your home lenders and don't feel bad about it, because there's some really good ones and then there's some that are just super petty. And I don't know, she sent me like a really petty email this weekend as well. But anyway, they ended up giving us 2.5. So anyway, so let's go next. So the next step, I guess, is to, like I said, do not make any big changes. Do not open a new line of credit. Do not like order new furniture on your credit card or finance anything. Just like don't, because that like really hurt my process when like they discovered a new line of credit that they hadn't known about before, which should have been on the credit report. I don't know what happened. And then make sure you have at least $2,000 to spend on oh, and then, sorry, the next tip is to check all the documents that they send you. I mentioned this in my last video about like realtor documents, but check all your lender documents because they will put things wrong. And that is a huge contract. That's a huge amount of money to mess up on. And definitely just, like I said, check all the documents. I'm like feeling really intense right now because of thinking Katie. That's not her name, but anyway, yeah, just check all the documents, make sure that they're accurate, make sure that they reflect the correct loan amounts. Anyway, yeah, so definitely just check all the documents and make sure everything is accurate, because the lenders are dealing with a lot of documents and they don't always check. But yeah, so I think those are my main tips. Just you know, do your research, really spend the time to learn as much as you can about the home buying process. In the end, we ended up having to switch from the student loan one to just a regular FHA. And we do think it's the best fit for us at this time. We got a really low fixed rate, interest rate, and we're just so excited. So hopefully we'll have some videos for you soon with like a home tour, and we have a lot more that happened during this process, so I'm looking forward to sharing it. Yep. Anyway, thanks so much for watching, everyone. Like I said, please subscribe if you're interested in these kinds of videos, because I will be posting a lot more in the coming weeks. And I would love it if you comment, and I would love it if you liked the video as well. But yeah, thanks so much for watching.